Dempsey clutches the pulsing crystalline cube as she's escorted through labyrinthine corridors of the Senate station. Her mind races through the implications. Earth, abandoned to the predatory species that circle their system like vultures. The cube throbs with a cold blue light, its facets displaying microscopic data streams detailing the Senate's decision in 100 alien scripts. Wait. She turns to her escort, a towering Fraxian whose translucent exoskeleton reveals pulsing organs beneath. On what evidence was this decision based? We deserve to know the full scope of your surveillance. The Fraxian's compound eyes shift uncomfortably. The evidence spans centuries, Ambassador. Your species was given every opportunity to conform to your standards. Dempsey interrupts, anger overriding diplomatic protocol. Earth survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and our own nuclear brinkmanship. The Senate judges our scars without understanding how we earned them. A passing delegation of methane brothers drifts aside, their environment suits hissing with what sounds like laughter. The primitives always protest. One mutters in their native tongue, not realizing Dempsey's neural translator can interpret their atmospheric vibrations. Remember the Pelasians, extinct within a cycle after dismissal. Dempsey's shuttle awaits in Bay 47, a small utilitarian craft compared to the gleaming vessels of established Senate members. As she boards, a shadow detaches from a maintenance alcove. The ancient Tucan observer glides forward, crystalline body catching starlight from the bay's massive windows. Ambassador Dempsey, the being's voice resonates directly in her mind, bypassing auditory systems altogether. A moment, if you will. The Fraxian escort hesitates, then backs away. Even Senate security defers to the Tucan, a species so ancient their homeworld's location has been forgotten. Your dismissal was not unanimous, the crystalline entity continues. Some of us objected to the classification parameters. Dempsey's neural implants struggle to process the Tucan's complex thought language. Why tell me this? The decision is made. The ancient being's facets shift, forming what might be a facial expression. Because classification errors happen, Ambassador. 10,000 years ago, my own species was dismissed, before our unexpected resurgence. The being extends a crystalline appendage, touching the alert cube. It flashes momentarily, then returns to its rhythmic pulsing. Your species displays anomalous adaptation patterns. Most civilizations progressed linearly. Humans, fractal. Fascinating. Dempsey narrows her eyes. Did you support our dismissal? I abstained. The Tucan's mental voice carries something like amusement. After 8 million years of observation, I've learned to recognize patterns others miss. The Senate sees your environmental struggles as failure. I see deliberate, homeostatic calibration, like biological fever fighting infection. The being drifts backward as Senate security drones approach. A final observation, Ambassador. The Senate believes they've been watching you. Consider who might have been watching them. Before Dempsey can respond, the Tucan melts back into the shadows. The security drones hover expectantly, escorting her to her shuttle. As the craft breaks away from the station, Dempsey studies the crystalline cube. Its cold light illuminates her face as she opens a secure channel to Earth, a supposedly primitive quantum-encrypted frequency that Senate surveillance considers rudimentary. Central Command, this is Dempsey. She speaks calmly, professionally. Authorization Delta Frost 99. The threshold has been crossed. I repeat, threshold crossed. Operation Permafrost is now active. The response comes instantly, suggesting Earth had been expecting this call. Acknowledged, Ambassador. Return protocols engaged. The Ice Age begins. As her shuttle accelerates toward the warp point, Dempsey watches the Senate station recede into the distance. The massive structure, a marvel of cooperative engineering by 200 species, suddenly seems fragile against the void. The crystalline cube pulses in her hand. 6 months until the barriers fall. 6 months to prepare humanity's response to a dismissal 10 generations in the planning. How had we known to prepare for this exact scenario? Dempsey repeats, staring at the holographic display showing defensive systems distributed throughout the solar system. Because someone told us. General Administrator Cheng nods to a subordinate who activates a secure wall panel. The room's lights dim as a preservation chamber slides forward. Inside, suspended in a clear preservation medium, floats what appears to be a crystalline fragment roughly the size of a human hand. Recovered from the Siberian impact site, 1908, explains Cheng. What history records as the Tunguska event was actually first contact. Dr. Rathor steps forward, adjusting his glasses. The fragment contains quantum-encoded data, billions of years of Senate records, observation protocols, classification parameters. Everything we would need to understand how the galactic community operates. Our visitor was dying, continues African Union Chief Nkosi, her voice solemn. But it managed to encode this warning before molecular collapse. We didn't even have radio technology sophisticated enough to detect it until 1947. Dempsey approaches the fragment, which pulses with a faint internal light that seems to respond to her proximity. Atzlukan, she whispers, like the observer who spoke to me at the Senate. Yes, Cheng confirms. Though we didn't know that until your neural implant recorded your interaction today. The fragment's data structure is identical to the thought language your translator partially decoded. The implications stagger Dempsey. They've been helping us? Why? Russian Federation Director Petrov laughs humorlessly, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focuses. Self-interest, likely. The Senate dismissed the Tulkan millennia ago. Perhaps they seek allies against an old enemy. The holographic display shifts to show a timeline. Humanity's technological development plotted against Senate observation protocols. What appears to outside observers as random accelerations and plateaus in human advancement reveals itself as a carefully orchestrated dance, advancing just enough in public while developing true breakthroughs in secret. Operation Permafrost was designed to present a specific image to Senate observers, explains Cheng. The appearance of a struggling, divided species masking our true capabilities and unity. Our wars were theater, nods Petrov, but the solutions they generated were real. Nothing drives innovation like conflict, even manufactured conflict. Our climate crisis was partially genuine, adds Nkosi, but we solved the core problems decades ago. The continuing visible effects were maintained deliberately while we developed atmospheric manipulation technologies that would seem like magic to most Senate species. Dempsey sinks into a chair, overwhelmed. My entire diplomatic career was based on a lie. Not a lie. Cheng corrects gently. A necessary deception. The Tulkan fragment contained one undeniable truth. Species that appear threatening to the Senate consensus are eliminated. Those that appear primitive but potentially useful are tolerated until they can be exploited. The holographic display shifts again, showing the Kuiper Belt boundary where Senate protection barriers had maintained a tenuous peace. Already, sensors detect movement beyond, predatory species positioning themselves for the coming opportunity. And now, Dempsey asks. Now we execute the final phase, Cheng responds, nodding toward the massive doors at the chamber's end, which slowly swing open to reveal a cavernous hangar bay. Inside stand rows of gleaming vessels unlike anything publicly acknowledged in Earth's arsenal. Ships combining human innovation with principles reverse engineered from the Tulkan fragment. We've maintained the deception for generations, Cheng continues, her voice resonating with quiet pride. Our dismissal was always the contingency we prepared for. The moment when humanity could finally stop pretending to be less than we are. In the distance, a klaxon sounds. Early warning systems have detected the first probing scans from beyond the barrier's fading perimeter. The predators are testing their boundaries, eager to claim their prize. Humanity is ready. The thunderous crack of shifting ice reverberates through the facility as Dempsey follows Dr. Frost deeper into the complex. They traverse a transparent walkway suspended over a massive underground lake, its dark waters occasionally disturbed by the movement of submersible craft testing experimental propulsion systems. Our greatest advantage, Dr. Frost explains, gesturing to the surrounding ice walls, is thermal adaptation. Most Senate species evolved on temperate worlds with minimal seasonal variation. Humans emerged from ice ages that should have exterminated us. They enter a circular chamber where technicians in white thermal suits calibrate what appears to be a simple metal sphere suspended in a containment field. This doesn't look like a weapon, Dempsey observes. Because it isn't, not directly. Dr. Frost gestures, and the sphere separates into interlocking components that reconfigure into a crystalline lattice. We call it Snowflake. It's a terraforming seed capable of flash-freezing planetary atmospheres temporarily. Dempsey steps back involuntarily. That's genocide. Actually, it's the opposite. Frost's pale eyes narrow. It induces suspended animation in most carbon-based life forms without permanent harm. When reversed, subjects awaken with no memory of the transition. We developed it as a non-lethal planetary defense system, one that preserves indigenous life while neutralizing invasion forces. A technician approaches with a data tablet. Frost reviews it, nodding. The Europa deployment is complete. All Ice Walkers are in position. Ice Walkers? Dempsey asks. Instead of answering directly, Frost leads her to another chamber. Inside, row upon row of humanoid figures stand motionless, their bodies composed of translucent material that appears somewhere between ice and liquid crystal. Autonomous defense units, Frost explains. Consciousness matrices housed in adaptive cryogenic bodies. They can operate in hard vacuum, extreme radiation, even stellar coronas. They look human, Dempsey whispers, unsettled by their eerily perfect features. Their design is deliberately anthropomorphic, nods Frost. Psychological warfare. When alien invaders are confronted by ice figures that mimic human form but ignore environmental limitations they believe fatal to us, the cognitive dissonance is useful. A scientist interrupts, his expression urgent. Dr. Frost, we're detecting quantum fluctuations at the barrier perimeter. The Vectari are testing for weaknesses earlier than predicted. Frost checks her neural implant. How many scout vessels? 3. Approaching from the heliospheric north. Deploy Ice Walker units 17 through 22. Observational protocol only. No engagement unless directly threatened. Dempsey follows Frost to a command center embedded in blue-white ice. Holographic displays show the solar system in real time, with fading barrier boundaries outlined in red. Beyond them, dozens of vessels wait like predators scenting blood. You mentioned Earth still faces real environmental challenges, Dempsey says, watching the displays. If we have this technology, why haven't we fully restored our biosphere? Frost's expression darkens. Politics. Some argued complete restoration would reveal our capabilities prematurely. Others felt maintaining visible environmental stress created useful cover for developing these facilities. She gestures to the ice surrounding them. Antarctica's increased glaciation conceals our thermal signatures. Convenient. That's monstrous, Dempsey whispers. Yes, Frost doesn't disagree. Operation Permafrost required terrible compromises. Generations living with deliberately prolonged hardship to maintain our deception. She turns to face Dempsey directly. That's why your mission to the Senate was so important. We needed their dismissal to finally deploy these systems openly, to use what we developed not just for defense, but healing. The alert system pulses. On the display, the first Vectari scout vessel crosses the fading barrier boundary. And now? Dempsey asks. Frost's smile is cold, but not unkind. Now we stop pretending to be less than we are. The Iced Age ends for Earth. For our attackers, it's just beginning. From the Unified Defense Command Center, Dempsey watches as tactical displays track the invading forces penetrating deeper into the solar system. The Vectari Harvester fleet moves in a perfect hexagonal formation, their biological ships pulsing with violet energy as they approach the asteroid belt. The Drellid mining vessels advance from the opposite vector, their massive resource processors already deploying collection arrays. Most concerning are the Morrigan slave ships, their sleek black hulls absorbing rather than reflecting sensor scans as they make a direct approach toward Earth. We've studied each species' tactical doctrines for decades, explains Commander Okonkwo, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. The Vectari are hive-minded, take out their queen ship, and the rest become disoriented. The Drellid value their harvesting equipment above their own lives. And the Morrigan. They're the most dangerous, adds General Administrator Cheng, her augmented eyes narrowing. Their neural enslavement technology is their primary weapon. They don't want our resources, they want us. A junior officer approaches with urgent data. Commander, Morrigan vessels are deploying long-range neural disruptors. First wave targeting our lunar outposts. Okonkwo nods calmly. Right on schedule. Activate countermeasures. Throughout the command center, personnel don what appear to be simple crystal headbands. Dempsey accepts one from an aide. Neural dampening field, explains Cheng. Developed after we captured and reverse-engineered a Morrigan probe in 2041. They've spent 80 years believing we never detected it. On the tactical display, the lunar outposts appear to go dark one by one. Exactly as the Morrigan expect. Their ships accelerate, sensing victory. Now, orders Okonkwo softly. The lunar surface itself seems to transform. Dormant defense systems disguised as mining equipment activate simultaneously. Directed energy weapons concealed within crater rims target the approaching Morrigan vessels with pinpoint accuracy, disrupting their neural projection arrays. Across the system, humanity's response unfolds with choreographed precision. The supposedly primitive Earth orbital platforms shimmer and vanish. Advanced cloaking systems revealing sleek weapons platforms that appear behind the Vectari formation. The Queen ship's protective screen falters as precision strikes neutralize its shield generators. From Europa, the ice projectiles launch without warning. Dozens of crystalline missiles accelerating at impossible speeds. Each contains a quantum-entangled core allowing operators to adjust trajectories in real time, bypassing the Drellid's automated defense systems. We're targeting propulsion and weapon systems only. Okonkwo reminds her officers. Minimum casualties. We want their technology intact. Dempsey watches in awe as decades of preparation manifest in a symphony of coordinated defenses. The invaders' confident advance falters, their formations breaking as they encounter resistance beyond anything their intelligence suggested possible. Most remarkable is the response of Earth's supposedly obsolete defense fleet. As they engage the Morrigan vessels, their external hulls detach section by section, revealing ships of startlingly advanced design. What the Senate believed were primitive chemical thrusters are actually magnetohydrodynamic engines capable of maneuvers that defy standard navigational physics. Within 30 minutes, the first wave of invaders is neutralized, their vessels disabled and crews contained, but largely unharmed. Commence recovery operations, orders Okonkwo. Priority on the Morrigan neural technology and the Vectari Queen ship. In the sudden quiet of the command center, Dempsey finds her voice. What now? The Senate will know what happened within hours. Cheng's augmented eyes gleam with something between satisfaction and concern. Now comes the difficult part, Ambassador. We've shown our strength. Next, we demonstrate our restraint. She gestures to a communications officer. Prepare a system-wide broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. Inform any approaching vessels that unauthorized entry into Sol system will be met with the same response. Then contact the Senate directly. What do we tell them? Asks Dempsey. The truth? Chang replies. That humanity is not what they thought we were, and we're prepared to negotiate our place in the galactic community as equals, not subjects. In the holographic display, the disabled alien vessels drift silently against the backdrop of Saturn's rings. A tableau that will soon become iconic throughout the galaxy as the moment humanity revealed its true face to the stars. The emergency session of the Interstellar Senate stretches into its 9th hour. The crystalline chamber, designed to amplify and project the voices of representatives from hundreds of species, now buzzes with overlapping arguments and accusations. Security Director Thrillax stands at the center of the chamber, metallic segments of his body reconfiguring to display the latest data streams. The evidence is undeniable. His modulated voice cuts through the chaos. Human technological development has proceeded along a completely separate evolutionary path than our models predicted. A holographic display materializes, showing the disabled Vectari Queen ship being methodically disassembled by what appear to be autonomous ice constructs. The sight sends ripples of alarm through the chamber. Those are not robots, observes the methane-breathing graph representative, environment suit hissing with agitation. Their composition is impossible. Sentient ice. Precisely the problem, Thrillax continues. Humans have developed technologies that exploit their planet's extreme environmental conditions we dismissed as limitations. Their ice-based computing alone represents an entirely novel approach to quantum processing. The representative from the Commerce Guild rises, crystalline form glittering anxiously. The economic implications are staggering. If humans can manipulate matter at the quantum level using ambient temperature as a catalyst rather than a constraint, our entire resource valuation index requires recalculation. More urgent, interjects the Lauren empath, tentacles twisting in distress, is understanding how they penetrated our security protocols. The humans knew precisely which species would enter their system and exactly how each would attack. Such foreknowledge suggests a catastrophic intelligence breach. Senate President Kazat's bioluminescence pulses in agitation. We must consider the possibility that humans have been monitoring our deliberations. Security Director, what vulnerabilities have you identified? Thrillax's metallic form shifts uncomfortably. That is, unclear. Our systems show no evidence of conventional infiltration. However, we've discovered unusual quantum resonance patterns in the chamber's crystalline architecture. These patterns match energy signatures detected in the human defense systems. A murmur of alarm spreads through the Senate. The ancient Tucan observer, silent until now, glides to the center of the chamber. Perhaps, the crystalline being suggests, we are asking the wrong question. Not how humans monitored us, but why we failed to accurately monitor them. The Tucan activates a private data stream that appears before each representative. Information too sensitive for general projection. The reaction is immediate, gasps of shock, gestures of disbelief, even fear. This cannot be verified, protests President Kazoth. It can, the Tucan counters. The data concerning human adaptability to extreme environments has been consistently misinterpreted. Our assessment protocols were designed for species that evolved to avoid environmental stress. Humans evolved to endure it, even harness it. The Senate's failure was not technological but conceptual. The diplomatic faction, led by the empathic Laurens, seizes the moment. We must establish direct contact immediately. This demonstration of force coupled with remarkable restraint suggests humans seek recognition, not conquest. Restraint. Scoffs the Krex representative, scales bristling. They humiliated 3 apex predator species without losing a single ship. This was not restraint. It was dominance messaging. Security feeds suddenly activate throughout the chamber, showing the massive Krex battle fleet already departing their homeworld. a direct violation of Senate emergency protocols. The Crex Imperium has independently decided on a military solution, announces Threlex grimly. The Tulkun observer's crystalline form pulses with what might be amusement. The Crex always did prefer force to understanding. They will learn, as the Vectari did. Some lessons must be experienced directly. President Kazoth signals for order. We will dispatch a diplomatic delegation immediately. The Crex action is unauthorized, but perhaps informative. If humans repel this attack as efficiently as the first, we will have our answer regarding their true capabilities. What remains unspoken, but understood by all present? The Senate's dismissal of humanity might have been the greatest miscalculation in its 100,000-year history. The Senate delegation shivers despite their environmental suits as they follow Ambassador Dempsey deeper into the ice cathedral. The vast chamber stretches hundreds of meters upward, its crystalline walls inscribed with mathematical equations that seem to shift and reconfigure as they watch. Cold is information, explains Dr. Frost, appearing from a side passage. At near-zero temperatures, quantum states become more stable, allowing for computing capabilities impossible at higher energy levels. This entire facility is essentially one massive quantum processor, the ice itself calculating, planning, remembering. The Lauren empath extends a tentative tendril toward the nearest wall, then recoils. It's aware? In a manner of speaking, Frost nods. Not conscious as you understand consciousness, but certainly more than inert. We've learned to speak the language of ice. The delegation moves forward into a central chamber where a perfect sphere of transparent ice hangs suspended in a gravitational null point. Inside, a miniature representation of the galaxy rotates slowly, individual stars pulsing with different colors and intensities. This is how we monitored you, General Administrator Cheng explains. Quantum entanglement at a stellar scale. Your crystalline Senate chamber uses remarkably similar principles to facilitate translation between disparate species. We simply piggyback on the existing network. The delegates exchange alarmed glances. One of them, a gelatinous entity contained within a hovering mechanical shell, propels itself forward. Impossible, it burbles through its translator. The energy requirements for system-wide entanglement would be prohibitive using conventional methods. Dempsey interrupts. But ice superconductivity changes the energy equation considerably. Cold isn't just our adaptation, it's our advantage. Cheng gestures, and the Galactic display zooms to show the Crex battle fleet approaching from the Galactic east. Your militaristic colleagues will enter our system within 10 standard hours. They believe overwhelming force will succeed where precision failed. We did not authorize their action, protests the lead delegate, a tall avian whose feathered ruff bristles with discomfort in the cold. Yet you'll observe the outcome with interest, Dempsey notes dryly. Consider it a practical demonstration of our proposition. She activates a different display, showing the barrier technology humans have developed. Unlike the Senate's version, a uniform energy field, the human barrier resembles intricate crystalline latticework, constantly adapting its configuration. Your barriers operate on brute force principles, explains Dr. Frost. Ours on adaptive resistance, like an immune system rather than a wall. This is what we offer the Senate, Cheng continues. Not just our recognition as equals, but a true exchange of knowledge. Your technology's optimized for stable, temperate environments. Ours developed in extremes. A delegate from a desert species leans forward, compound eyes reflecting the ice display. You would share these technologies freely? After our dismissal. Not freely, Dempsey corrects. As equals in mutually beneficial exchange. The Senate dismissed us before understanding what we are. We offer you the opportunity to correct that error. The delegation confers in hushed tones, their translators switching to private mode. Finally, the avian speaker addresses Dempsey again. And if we refuse, if the Senate maintains its dismissal. Dempsey's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Then we activate our system-wide barrier, severing all quantum connections to the galactic network. Sol becomes a sovereign island in space, inaccessible to Senate influence or observation. You would isolate yourselves completely. The Lauren empath seems genuinely distressed by the prospect. If necessary, nods Cheng. Humans survived ice ages by adapting to isolation when required. We can do so again. As if to emphasize her point, the chamber temperature drops several degrees further. The delegates huddle closer together while their human hosts remain perfectly comfortable in the intensifying cold. Consider carefully, Dempsey advises as frost begins to form on the delegates' environmental suits. The Senate dismissed us believing we couldn't survive without your protection. The truth is rather the opposite. We've been preparing to survive without you for generations. Above them, the ice cathedral seems to pulse with crystalline light, a living monument to humanity's communion with the cold that forged them. Grand Admiral Thaxis stands on the command deck of the Krex flagship, Inevitable Conquest, his scaled hide gleaming under the battle lights. The tactical display shows his armada, over 300 warships arrayed in perfect attack formation, approaching the Sol system's outer boundary. Status report, he growls, razor-sharp teeth clicking in anticipation. All vessels at full combat readiness, Admiral, reports his second-in-command. Weapons hot, shields at maximum. The humans appear to be taking no evasive action. Thaxis rumbles with satisfaction. As expected, their victory against the Vectari and the others was a fluke, the advantage of surprise. Against the might of the Krex Imperium, they stand no chance. The massive view screen shows Earth in the distance, a blue-white jewel, seemingly unprotected. Their intelligence suggests the human defenses were depleted in the previous engagement, the perfect opportunity to strike. Commence primary attack sequence. Thaxis orders. Maximum acceleration. The Krex armada surges forward into the Sol system, their formation a perfect arrowhead aimed at humanity's homeworld. For several minutes, they encounter no resistance. Then, without warning, space itself seems to ripple around them. Admiral, detecting unusual gravitational fluctuations, reports the science officer, mandibles clicking in confusion. Our velocity is decreasing despite maximum engine output. Thaxis slams a clawed fist on his command console. Impossible. Increase power to the drives. Throughout the fleet, Krex warships strain against invisible currents. Their perfect formation begins to distort as each vessel experiences different levels of resistance. What should have been a synchronized arrival becomes a staggered, vulnerable approach. Secondary countermeasures, orders Thaxis. Deploy fighter screen. Hundreds of smaller craft launch from the capital ships, their more nimble frames better able to navigate the gravitational anomalies. They accelerate toward Earth, only to encounter the second layer of humanity's defense. From seemingly empty regions of the asteroid belt, perfectly targeted electromagnetic pulses erupt. The pulses pass harmlessly through Krex shields, calibrated to stop kinetic and energy weapons, but not the precisely modulated frequencies humans have designed. Fighter craft lose power in waves. Larger vessels experience cascading system failures as the pulses trigger harmonics in their power distribution networks. How? Demands Thaxis, watching as his fleet's coordinated attack dissolves into chaos. How could they know the exact frequencies to disable our systems? The answer arrives in the most unsettling form imaginable. Through the viewports, the crew witnesses strange crystalline objects approaching. Humanoid figures composed of translucent ice, propelling themselves through vacuum without propulsion systems or environmental protection. Admiral. The tactical officer's voice wavers, the ice. Constructs are breaching our hull integrity on multiple decks. Security feeds show the impossible. The ice warriors phase through supposedly impenetrable barriers, their crystalline forms housing advanced eye systems that immediately target the ship's neural control networks. Thaxis draws his ceremonial blade, determined to face these abominations directly. Stand ready for boarding defense. The Kreks do not surrender. The bridge temperature plummets as 3 ice warriors materialize directly on the command deck. Their featureless faces somehow convey implacable purpose as they move with liquid grace toward the command staff. Thaxis lunges, his blade striking the nearest figure, only to pass through its crystalline form without resistance. The warrior reconfigures around the attack, then extends a hand toward the admiral's face. A fine mist of supercooled particles engulfs him. Consciousness fades as Thaxis realizes the truth too late. The humans never intended to destroy them, merely to render them irrelevant. Throughout the Kreks fleet, the pattern repeats. Crew members fall into suspended animation, their vital signs carefully maintained by the very ice warriors that incapacitated them. Ship systems are methodically disabled, weapons neutralized, engines shut down with surgical precision. Within 4 hours, humanity controls the most advanced battle fleet the Senate has ever fielded against a single opponent. Not a single human life is lost. Not a single Kreks life is taken. The message to the galaxy could not be clearer. Humanity does not need to destroy to prevail. After the Senate's historic vote granting humanity full membership, the formal ceremony continues in the Grand Concourse, a vast space where representatives from thousands of worlds mingle in what passes for casual diplomacy among the galaxy's elite. Dempsey moves through the crowd, accepting congratulations with practiced grace while observing the subtle power dynamics at play. The Vektari delegation, once dismissive of humans as mere prey, now maintains a respectful distance. Their new queen representative occasionally touches the neural dampener on her thorax, a gift from Earth that prevents her from falling into the destructive hive mind patterns of her predecessors. More surprising is the presence of the Kreks Grand Admiral Thaxis himself. Stripped of command but not honor, he approaches Dempsey with the stiff formality of predator acknowledging an equal. "Your ice warriors," he rumbles, voice still raspy from cryo revival. "They are not merely constructs, are they?" Dempsey offers a diplomatic smile. "Some questions, Admiral, are best left for future discussions between allies." Thaxis makes the Kreks gesture of respectful acknowledgement, a concession unimaginable months earlier. The Imperium would be interested in exchanging observers for mutual benefit. "I'll take it under consideration," Dempsey replies, knowing the implied alliance offers humanity access to Kreks military academies, something no non-Krek species has ever achieved. She continues through the concourse, aware of being watched not just by current allies and former enemies, but by species that have remained neutral throughout the crisis. Their representatives approach cautiously, sensing the fundamental shift in galactic politics that Earth's emergence represents. In a quiet alcove, Senate President Kzoth awaits, his bioluminescence subdued in what Dempsey has learned to recognize as embarrassment. "TIE Representative Dempsey," he acknowledges formally. "The transition protocols are complete. Earth's full voting rights will be activated at the next general session." "Thank you, President Kzoth," she responds with equal formality. The Senate President hesitates, then asks the question that has occupied the Senate's private deliberations for weeks. "Your speech referenced humanity's evolution through ice ages. Yet, our records show your species nearly perished in these periods. How did such harsh conditions create resilience rather than extinction?" Dempsey considers her answer carefully. "Humans don't advance despite adversity, President Kzoth. We advance because of it. When resources are plentiful and conditions ideal, we stagnate. When faced with extinction, we innovate. A dangerous evolutionary strategy," Kzoth observes. "But an effective one," she counters. "The Senate evolved to preserve stability. Humanity evolved to thrive in chaos." As Kzoth departs, the ancient Tucan observer glides into the vacated space, crystalline form catching the light from distant stars visible through the concourse's transparent dome. An instructive exchange, the being notes, mental voice resonating with something like amusement. Dempsey studies the crystalline entity. Your people helped us. Why? The Tulkun's facets shift in what might be their equivalent of a smile. Let us say we recognized kindred spirits. The Senate believes itself the galaxy's oldest civilization. They are incorrect. The fragment that arrived in Tunguska, Dempsey ventures. It wasn't just a warning, was it? It was an invitation. Perhaps the Tulkun's mental voice grows distant. Or perhaps a reminder. Your kind has walked among the stars before, Ambassador Dempsey. Ice ages come and go. Civilizations rise and fall. Memory remains. Before Dempsey can press for clarification, the being drifts away, leaving her with more questions than answers. She looks out at the galactic core visible through the dome. Countless suns swirling in celestial patterns that suddenly seem familiar in ways she cannot explain. Earth's journey among the stars isn't beginning, she realizes with sudden clarity. It's resuming, a cycle of advancement, retreat, and return as old as the ice ages themselves. The Senate's dismissal wasn't an ending, but an awakening. The cold shock needed to rouse humanity from complacency into their true potential. As delegates from hundreds of worlds approach to establish formal diplomatic relations, Dempsey embraces her role as humanity's voice among the stars. Knowing that the ice that once threatened to extinguish human civilization has become the very foundation of their triumphant return.